Most of us who are human have to deal with regret from time to time. I'm sure you can agree. Maybe regret because of a poor decision we made. You know, things that I wish I had done differently in my life or in my ministry.
Of course, who wouldn't want to take another go at something and improve on the first try by doing it again? But the fact is, you don't get that chance. Don't let regret beat you down. Don't be a slave to regret. No, let it teach you. Let it make you better.
The only one that can stop you is you. If you let your mistakes define you, if you wear labels that people stick on you, that will keep you from your destiny. And when someone keeps bringing up your past mistakes, trying to get you to live condemned, you can't stop them from putting labels on you, but you can take them right off. My mistakes are behind me. My failures are in my yesterday. And you know what? I'm not bringing them into today.
Leave the past and move forward. You're going to have to put that where it belongs. You know, we all have a past, but we don't need to live there anymore.
If you ask people what they regret, especially as they get older, what they generally report is things not done. So they don't regret so much mistakes they've made, although of course people obviously regret mistakes they've made as well. So they don't exactly regret sins of commission, right, errors that they've actively made. They torment themselves for opportunities that had presented themselves that they did not, let's say, exploit or engage in.
The regret we feel for things that we've done, though intense, only lasts a short period of time. But the regret that we feel for things that we missed out on, that can extend throughout a lifetime. Because most of us are scared. And we choose to lead an easy life. We choose to take the safe path. And by doing so, we start to rack up those regrets. But there is a solution. You have to be willing to be bold.
Bad decisions, hasty decisions, too fast, and affects the next 20 years of your life because you made the wrong decision. If you'd have just waited, got all your information together, settled yourself, you'd have been better. What makes us make these fast decisions? Fear?
It takes discipline to face your fears so you can conquer them. And that's what discipline is. Discipline means taking the hard road, the uphill road, to do what's right. And regret, in and of itself, it's worthless. So learn and move on.
Anybody can be steady when there is no storm. The true skill set of a leader is to be steady in the storm. Not hysterical, not anxious, but steady in the storm. You are closer to there than you have ever been before. But God is not big on details. He tells you, we're going to the other side. He does not tell you what's going to happen on the way. There are things that scare the living daylights out of you on the way. It's not the takeoff that you have to be concerned about, because most things take off good. Most business ventures take off good. Most little babies start out good. The takeoff is always great. It's the things that happen in the middle that challenge your ability to be steady. And there you are in a crisis, in a storm, and you're trying to get to the other side. Wherever there is, wherever God has predestined for me to go, I want you to notice that He determined the end from the beginning. He knew where He wanted you to go before He formed you in your mama's belly. He had predestined for you to go to a place. But in the process of getting there, storms arise. The one thing that we all have in common, black or white, rich or poor, short or tall, the one thing I can guarantee you that all of us will face, male or female, is a storm. There is nobody you're going to meet or fall in love with that will avoid the fact that storms are built into God's plan. You have to know that He equipped you with a fire extinguisher and an emergency exit and an automated system that even when you can't see Him, you can hear Him. And if you will follow His voice, you will get to the other side. The first thing we do when we get in the storm is to try to fix the storm. The storm is not yours to fix. You cannot fix the storm. And this drives you crazy, but it's particularly difficult for men because we are raised to fix stuff. And there are some women who feel that way too. You feel like you failed if you don't fix it. You lose self-esteem because you feel like it's your fault because you can't fix it. And I came to tell you, every storm that comes your way is not your job to fix. Storms don't always warn you that they're coming. Oh, once you get so high in the air, the pilot is going to pass out and you're going to almost lose your mind. Your husband is going to leave you for your girlfriend or your sister, your mama. No, nobody, you don't get to pick. And how do you sit down and tell your boys you lost your girl to a girl? Oh, you think that's funny? Yeah, you think that's funny, but that's happening. You don't get to pick the storm you face. You don't get to pick what life is going to hand you. And to all those control freaks, you have a special degree of trauma because the only time you feel safe is when you're in control. And I confess to you, I hate it. I don't want to be in something I can't control. And when you're in a storm, the big question in your mind is, do I have what it takes to stand against this storm? Can I make it through at my age? Can I make it through at my stage? Can I make it through after all the other stuff we've been through? And the worst time to have a storm is when you're already tired. That's why the enemy waits till you're tired. He waits till you're frustrated. And you feel like if one more thing hits me, I am going to lose it up in here. And that's when the storm comes. And it came to pass. And it came to pass. Every storm that ever hit the planet came. No matter how fierce, no matter how devastating, no matter how many homes were destroyed, they always come. And no matter how severe, no matter how terrible, no matter how many lives were lost, families were lost, it still comes to pass. How many times in your life have you gone through something you thought you wasn't gonna make it? Where are my real people at this morning? I'm never gonna make it out of this. This is too much. I can't handle it. I can't take it. And half of the stuff that broke my heart and almost drove me crazy, I can't even remember. It's in my rear view mirror. But in that moment when that storm hits, can I be steady in the storm? I've had some tough storms. And I learned that what I have to do is be steady in the storms. Can I talk to you this morning? Stop wishing for other people's stuff because you don't understand all the things they have to put into it to be ready to handle it. If your perspective doesn't change, you will misunderstand that God allowed the storm to give you an experience that nobody else ever got to have. You want an uncanny anointing? Go through an uncanny storm. You want an uncanny influence? Endure an uncanny storm. You don't get this by wishing for it. You get it after you've suffered a while. There are no shortcuts to the storm. Oh, do you hear what I'm talking to you about? And this is not a time to faint. And this is not a time to give up. And this is not a time to die.
No matter what happens to you, it ain't over. Ain't no such a thing as over. As long as God wakes you up, that means he ain't through with you yet.
Every painful time, it's developing something in you that can only be developed in the tough times.
When you get into a tight spot and everything goes against you, never give up then, for that is just the place and time that the tide will turn.
Now you have to receive this by faith and say, God, I believe what you promised, that a turnaround is coming.
Hang on. Winters don't last forever.
We all have weakness. We all have gaps. We all have issues. We all have struggles. And the first step to working your weakness is admitting your weakness. How many know denial is dangerous? Just because you ignore it doesn't mean it's going to go away. But many times we conceal things and we cover things up because we're concerned that if we'll expose it, we're going to be embarrassed. Have you ever felt exposed before?
So if you want to do something, if you thought about something you want to do, take it head on. Decide that you're going to start looking at it, start doing research on it, start tackling it, start becoming involved in whatever and wherever it might lead you to begin to explore the possibilities in that particular thing that you're seeking so that you can begin to learn all you can about it. Decide that you're going to face it, that whatever shortcomings you have, that you're going to strengthen yourself there. Whatever training that's required, that you're going to go get that training. George Washington Carver would say, do what you can, where you are with what you have, and never be satisfied. S.B. Fuller used to say, and you heard Joe Dudley talk about, always strive to be more than that which you are. Yeah, don't get satisfied with yourself. Always know that wherever you are, you can enjoy more, that you deserve more. Why you can't begin to live life on your terms. Always something there to block you, to keep you where you are, and keep you from beginning to develop your true greatness. Always some fear. How do we handle it? If you've been using the fact that you don't have enough money or you don't have the education, take it head on. Go get the education.
But look at what they've done to you. They've made you an employee. And they told you where you can be employed and where you cannot be employed. And then they restrict how far you can rise in that employment.
Living my life on my terms. That's important. Not to give up on your dream, not to give up on yourself. Now, are there going to be some moments when you want to give up? Yes. Will there be some moments when it's going to seem like it's impossible? The disappointment that you're experiencing, that you're going to say, it's not worth it? Yes, that's going to be right there for you. It's going to be in your face.
When you start grinding, when you start waking up early, when you start keeping your word to yourself, to your boss, when you go into 120, when you all in by any means necessary, you start seeing stuff and you start experiencing stuff and you start having stuff that people who are not doing that, they never get. And I promise you, when I go out, I will be the best version of me. When I go out with my son, with my daughter, and with my wife saying, our husband gave 120%.
And until your thinking change, you are contaminated leadership. They had never heard such a level of teaching on leadership. Why? Because unless your mind changes, you will never become a leader. Attitude determines your limitation. which means that your belief system determines how far you go. You can never lead beyond your attitude and your belief system. And that's why your life is what you think it should be and exactly what it is. Attitude is the manifestation of your personal philosophy.
So you got to decide, wait. Even if things don't work out, even if I experience defeat or failure, that does not make me a failure. It's a difference between failing and being a failure. If things don't work out, if you don't produce the results you want, that's all. But don't confuse who you are with the results that you produce.
Be transformed by changing the way you think, because my thoughts control my life. Your feelings don't shape your life. Your beliefs do. And it doesn't even have to be true. If you believe it, it's going to shape your life. And a lot of you were taught things as a kid about you that just weren't true. And years later, you're still acting on false information.
The process of building self-confidence is actually very easy, believe it or not. Self-confidence is self-trust. Self-confidence is building a reputation with yourself that you keep your word to you, that you keep the promises you make to you. Somebody with self-confidence has a reputation with themselves that I do the things I say I'm going to do. Build your self-confidence, and the greater and greater your self-confidence get, it minimizes the impact self-doubt has on us. It's important because you have to understand one thing about the doubts and the negative thoughts you have about yourself. These are not your thoughts. You weren't born doubting. You weren't born discouraged. You weren't born thinking negative things about yourself.
True leadership is self-discovery. True leadership begins with an individual discovering something about themselves. That's when it really begins. And you will never become a true leader until you are introduced to yourself.
Don't do that. Be quiet. Sit down. Be a good boy. Be a good girl. Maybe it was criticism you received as a little one that you may not even remember to this day. Those were thoughts that were placed in you and given to you by an external source at some time in your life. It could even be our parents. It could have been a school teacher. It could have been ridicule at school from other children. But when you were young in your formative years, these negative thoughts about yourself were planted in you by an external source. When I meet someone who is not self-confident, I know this is someone who has consistently made promises to themselves they've not kept. They've started a diet and done it for a while but not kept it. And so they have a process and a habit in their life more often than not of not keeping the promises they don't make to other people. They don't keep the promises they make to themselves.
It's impossible for you to have continuous success without having self-discipline in your life. Impossible. And my greatest challenge as a leader is your greatest challenge as a leader. And that is, every day, keeping people climbing. Because they don't want to climb. They want to coast to success.
I just want to tell you, don't let this chapter that you're going through make you in your story. Don't let depression lie to you and tell you that you're not enough, that tells you that there's no more better days, that tells you that your best days are behind you, that tells you you're a nobody, that tells you that you're better off dead. Don't let it lie to you, because it's been lying to you so long that you're starting to believe that's true. You're starting to live that out.
And they just kind of hope that if they're at the right place at the right time, something wonderful will happen to them. Everything worthwhile is uphill. All the way, not partially uphill. And the challenge that we all have is we don't mind climbing uphill for 3 or 4 days, as long as we can coast for a couple.
Stuck in there as a firm belief. That's why we have to guard our beliefs so preciously, because our mind goes to work on finding these legs, these references, which are real experiences in our life, to prove to us that that belief is true. And so although you may believe it to be true about you, these doubts and negative thoughts you have, these were not your original thoughts.
Let's take a few minutes to talk about the importance of knowing yourself enough to be your best cheerleader. The times you thought you had it all laid out and it just didn't work. The times when you burned the midnight oil day after day and it didn't seem to help. These are the times that you have to rely on your own self-encouragement. Take responsibility for the missed opportunity or the misrepresentation. Be prepared for the letdowns that happen every so often. Know that this lost opportunity just sets you up better for the next one. Study your mistakes and learn from them. Don't dwell on the mistakes. Learn from them. Encourage yourself that you're smarter than your bank account leads you to believe. Remind yourself that you're bound to get better. Don't get down on yourself. Don't beat yourself up. You can do it better next time. You just have to practice. Keep trying until you've got it down. If you figured out what it was in your presentation that didn't work, don't say that next time. Don't beat yourself for messing up. Pat yourself on the back for figuring it out. You need to pump yourself up. You need to be your own cheerleader, because you can't wait and hope that someone else will come along and cheer you up, tell you that you'll do better next time. You have to rely on yourself. You have to have the inner belief that everything you're doing for a positive outcome in the future. Encourage yourself with your goals, your dreams, your ambition. Knowing that you've got a plan. Knowing that you're going to do it until. There's an old cowboy saying, fall off a horse 7 times, and you're a real cowboy. If you fall off track, get right back on. If you fall out of habit, get back into the habit. If you fall off the horse, get back on. It may be hard, it may be a bit frightening, but get back on. We must all suffer one of 2 pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. It's much easier to be disciplined and have the money than to try to rationalize why you don't. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Don't wish for less challenge, wish for more wisdom. Develop yourself to the point that you can truly and totally rely on yourself. Too much of anything is a bad thing. Life without balance results in an unbalanced life. Eating an apple a day is good. Eating only apples is bad. Working hard, burning the midnight oil, doing it until is good. Working nonstop, never spending quality time with the people you love, never taking a break year after year, is bad. It doesn't work that way. You've got to stop and ponder where you've been and where you're going. After all, if you're always working, you must be successful. No, it doesn't work that way. For workaholics, there's never enough work. The only satisfaction is fighting off sleep, denying life's pleasures, getting more tasks done. These people are generally more task-oriented than results-oriented. They're busy being busy. Now, wouldn't you prefer a life of productivity rather than a life of tasks? When you schedule your time and take advantage of your time, you can work smarter instead of working longer, and still have time for other things in life. I will look for new ways to work smarter by focusing on doing more per hour instead of doing more hours. Too much of anything, even good things, will sooner or later throw you off track. Ambitious people don't see each step toward their goals as a singular step. With everything they do and with every discipline they adhere to, they see it all as part of a chain. Every action and every discipline today is a link in the chain. Every action and every discipline tomorrow is a link. When you can see that every link in the chain will eventually lead you to the things you want most out of life, then you won't grow discouraged or fearful or impatient with today. Part of this visual chain thinking is built when you decide on your direction, when you can see where you're going to end up before you get there. Your plans and goals are your visual chain, knowing where you're going before you get there. Not one professional team in the world begins a game without a complete strategy. But few of us take the time to map out a strategy for our lives. Here's the first rule for your game plan of life. don't start your day until you have it finished. Don't start your day until you have it planned. And do this every day. Once you've mastered the art of planning your day, you're ready for the next level. Don't start your week until you have it finished. Just imagine what life would be like if you took time out of every Sunday to plan your week. Come Friday, you won't be saying, boy, did this week fly by. No, if you plan your week before you start it, you'll know exactly what you want to do, what you need to work on. Your days will be better, more effective. You'll be working smarter, not harder. It takes great discipline on your part, but it will soon lead to a new habit, a habit of mastering your time. If you're doing all that you're scheduled to do, game plans are very rewarding. Day by day by day, week by week by week, you'll see the magic of your dreams and plans turning into reality. It's an incredible feeling of being in charge of your life. And what's really powerful about creating game plans is that you can see your future right before your eyes. So on those days when your energy isn't up to par, on those days, use your game plan to see how far you've come. On those days, it's your discipline and visual chain of the future that will pull you ahead. Develop a game plan for your life. Make sure that your game plan includes time for recreation, time for reflection, time for health, time for spirituality. And you have to maintain the discipline of working your plan until you've got it down. Your consistent self-discipline is the magic catalyst.
I want to talk to people who are hungry to make an impact with their lives, who are hungry to make this year the best you've ever had. I don't want to just casually get to the end of life and, oh, well, that was a nice ride. No, my goal is to finish strong. And so the question becomes, what are you going to do now?
When you have these ideas of greatness, you got to go forward, because it's not going to be a right time. If you ever planning on soaring, you're going to have to jump. But if you don't do it now, when you going to do it?
Live with a sense of urgency. Live your life in such a way that life don't owe you any change.
Of all the subjects we've covered so far and are about to cover, none is more important than covering the disciplines for success. What's at the core of achieving the good life? The major key to the good life. The major key is not in learning how to set goals. It is not in learning how to better manage your time. It is not in mastering the attributes of leadership. Every day in 1,000 different ways, we are trying to improve ourselves by learning how to do things. We spend a lifetime gathering knowledge in classrooms, in textbooks, in experiences. Now, if knowledge is power, if knowledge is the forerunner to success, then why do we fall short of our objectives? Why, in spite of all our knowledge and in spite of our collective experiences, do we find ourselves aimlessly wandering, settling for a life of existence rather than a life of substance? There may be many answers to this question. Your answers may be different than your associates or your spouses or your friends. While there may be many answers to this question, the fundamental answer is the absence of discipline. Applying all that we know. That's the key word, discipline, self-discipline. We might add one more word here, consistent. Consistent self-discipline. It doesn't really matter how smart you are or how much you know if you don't use it. It doesn't really matter that you graduated magna cum laude if you're stuck in a low-paying job. It doesn't really matter if you attended every seminar that comes to town if you don't apply what you've learned. Better than knowledge is applied knowledge. And once we've applied our knowledge, we must study the results of that process. Apply our knowledge, study the results. Refine our approach. finally, by trying and observing and refining and trying again, our knowledge will inevitably produce worthy results, admirable results. And with the joy and results of our efforts, we continue to apply, to learn, to observe, to fuel our ambition with the positive reinforcement of continued progress. Pretty soon, we'll find that we're swept into a spiral of achievement, a vertical rise to success. And the ecstasy of that total experience makes for a life of triumph over tragedy, dullness, and mediocrity. But for this whole process to work for us, we must first master the art of discipline, self-discipline, consistent self-discipline. It takes consistent self-discipline to master the art of setting goals, to master the art of time management, to master the art of leadership, to master the art of parenting and relationships. If we don't make consistent self-discipline part of our daily lives, the results we seek will be sporadic and elusive. It takes a consistent effort to truly manage our valuable time, or we'll be consistently frustrated. Our time will be eaten up by others whose demands are stronger than our own. It takes discipline to conquer the nagging voices in our minds, the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of poverty, the fear of a broken heart. It takes discipline to keep trying when that nagging voice within us brings up the possibility of failure. It takes discipline to admit our errors and recognize our limitations. The voice of the human ego speaks to all of us. Sometimes the voice of ego says that we should magnify our value beyond our results. It leads us to exaggerate, to not be totally honest. It takes discipline to be totally honest, both with ourselves and with others. Be certain of one thing: every exaggeration of the truth, once detected by others, destroys our credibility and makes all that we say and do suspect. As soon as a business colleague figures out that we tend to exaggerate, guess what? They'll always think we exaggerate, and they'll never quite hold us in the same regard again. The tendency to exaggerate, distort, or even withhold the truth is an inherent part of all of us.
Need a little pick-me-up today? Welcome to the new Fresh Motivation app, where you'll find daily motivation, daily quotes. Listen to your favorite speeches in the background or with a black screen, so nothing interrupts your motivational moment, where you can create your personal profile, create playlists of your favorite speeches and quotes, add personal notes, and start setting goals. Fresh Motivation, the home of motivation. Get it now for free on Google Play.